today.
Yeah, when
right?
everything's now fired, YouTube finally decided to say, okay, you can go.
Wow.
It got confused because I had to shut the stream down for a second. So, okay, we're up and we're ready. And, well, maybe we're ready. we'll
As
see.
ready as we're gonna be.
We'll see if we can if I can do this without messing up what caused us to be delayed in the begin with. So here we go. Welcome to the new media show. We're back
doing the new media show again.
People are actually going to listen to this junk.
We do it live.
We're live right now.
We'll just do it live.
We're going live. We're going live. We just can't get enough. The new media show.
Let's go.
Just do it live.
We're going live. We're going live.
Bada bing, bada boom.
The new media show. We do it live.
Just do it live.
We're going live. We're going live. We're going live. The new media show. I'm like Adam Curry, and you're more like John C. Dvorak.
I think I am Adam Curry, and you're the old curmudgeon.
We do it live. Doing the new media show again.
The new media show.
Technology.
Whew. We make it sound so special. Hey, Rob.
And
yes,
we do. Make it sound special.
We're live. I don't know why I hit the long one today after we had a, delayed start to the show, but everyone's got it. And people are piling into the room. Welcome to everybody. It's on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. We had a false flag start today because some reason Wowza about every 3 months flips me the bird and says, we can't authenticate through Facebook anymore. I might as well just make a note every 90 days to reconnect. But anyway, it is what it is. And I think it's going to be much calmer here today, Rob.
Yes. Well, I don't know. We'll see. There's always something happening in the podcasting space that always gets us going. Seems like.
But I will say last show, the 2-hour mega marathon show.
Yep.
There was a lot of comments that came in. There was comments on Twitter. There was comments on Facebook. There was comments in my email. How about you?
I think we poked a bear, no question about it.
I think so. Tanner poked a bear.
Well, I kind of knew that would probably happen by bringing Tanner on. So I think it's a topic I think that touches a nerve with the podcasting community. If you think about it from a historical perspective and kind of where we're going in the future, I think it kind of hits that convergence. And I think we are going to talk about it at Podcast Movement now because of recent adjustments to the guests that are going on there. So,
well, yeah. I think what it boils down to, and I think a few people had some misconceptions about him as well. He's been podcasting a while. It's not like he's a fresh kid on the block.
Right.
So those that missed that, so he's just frustrated he's not growing, and that's universal.
And not making money.
Right.
So both of those pieces.
And that's universal. And so, I had some commentary. It's like, do the work hard. You work hard comes to success. And I'm not going to say he isn't working hard or others aren't working hard. But I think, Rob, you and I both know this is hard.
Yeah, it can be. And I think you have to treat it with the respect that you would have to treat a startup company, right? And I think that's what a lot of people aren't willing to do. And I think that's what creates this tension, is that it should be easier than it is. And it's not. It's not easier.
I subscribed to a new YouTube channel this week, and they had just hit about 50,000 subs and were starting to climb. Mm-hmm. And they've done 400 videos.
Right.
To put the time in to get to 50,000 subs, and they were happy that they were now monetized and making some money. But how long did it take me to find them? And they have a YouTube channel, and they don't do Instagram, they don't do Twitter, they don't do Twitch. They don't have a Facebook page. They are just on YouTube. And many people on YouTube that are successful YouTubers are all over the place. They're on They're doing stuff on, you know, you name it, TikTok. They're doing outtakes on Instagram. They're doing Patreons. They're doing all this stuff already. And
I think that's the key here is that the successful folks in the podcasting space and off podcasting that may be doing podcasting as well are what I like to call kind of multi-medium content creators, right? So they're creating stuff in video, they're creating stuff in social, they're doing live Facebook, they're doing live YouTube, they're pre-recording for YouTube, shorter form content, and they're doing podcasting too. It takes a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
But it does reach audiences much more rapidly.
But I was actually pleasantly surprised in a post that I saw on the Podcast Movement Facebook group where someone asked the question, and I just kind of, I sat back. I wanted to wait. It was something to do with, do I need a blog for my podcast? And I really wanted to see and it was really two divided camps. Mm-hmm. There was this camp that was, how should we say it? An anchor-like show. They said, no, you don't need that. Whereas the others, no, it's an integral part. It's needed. Some of the same things I've been saying, need to blog on non-podcast days. Just, these same themes that we've talked about on the show a lot. So I think it ran about 70% saying yes, you do, 30% saying you don't. And the large majority of those that said that you don't were on lockdown, single function platforms. And, so I thought that was telling. And I weighed in at it. I don't know how deep in the thread I was. I just basically said the same thing. It was, one can't live without the other and vice versa, at least for me. And
I feel that tension as well, Todd, around whether or not, a podcaster needs their own website for their podcast. I feel a tension that pulls both ways. It's like, I think if you put a half-hearted effort into your website and it doesn't do very much, sure, it's not going to do very much for you either. I think it's about what you invest in it, what you put into it, how much optimization you do around SEO, how much you put into it around having episode pages that have good metadata, good depth in there that you can get indexed well in Google for important keywords for your podcast. If you're not willing to put that effort in, you're probably going to have a lackluster experience around traffic to your website.
I work hard at it. In this latest change that Google made last month with their logo changes, I have good page scores and all that stuff, but I still have seen a little dip because Google changed a little bit. So I'm not getting as much search traffic into the site as I was. I've known some of the search terms that I typically look for have dropped. I'm not winning the search result game as much now on new episodes. So it's really taken me some time to go back and relook at, okay, how are we writing content? How, what is changed at Google? Do a little bit of reading. It doesn't take much, a couple hours of study. And I've kind of come up with a strategy on what I'm going to do and some tweaks. So most podcasters are not going to take 2 or 3 hours and kind of follow what is happening, in the world of discovery, and to be able to make, optimization moves to websites. So again, it's not for everyone, and the people don't have the time, but I've got a vested interest to make sure this show and my show are found in a, a very high prominent way. And again, I think that it really depends on your goals. So, it goes back to, there's not one shoe fits all. Because if you're part of that group that they don't care about, they're not ever going to worry about making money. They're doing this for fun. They're doing this for art or for cause or some other reason.
Right.
Maybe the website's not as important to them because it is what it is. Whereas those that are a little more serious or, not maybe it shouldn't even say that because those other 50% are just as serious. There's just different goals. And that's why I tried to make clear with Tanner that there's no rules here. You do what you want to do, rock on.
Yeah. And I'm sure Google is changing their algorithm, because really what we're talking about really is more what they call organic search.
Yeah.
Which is basically free listings. Google may be shifting in the algorithm over to driving people into more paid listings. I know, there's a lot of incentive to drive people over to paid listing versus organic listings. So I don't know, if they're doing anything like that, but certainly if you look at the patterns of Facebook and things like that about deprioritizing posts, and then, if you pay $5, guess what? You get, 2 or 3 or 4,000 more people looking at your stuff, that may be what's going on here with Google too. So I don't know, these companies are into making money. So it's a complicated equation to try and figure out.
And so, again, I think what it real boils down to, hey, Doug, thanks for checking in on the chat. Mike, good afternoon. If you're watching, make sure you say hello to us. We want to hear from you. I think in the end, it really, it just really boils down to doing your thing with your show and not just, okay, I run home to mama a lot and talk about having your own website, but that's not it. It's like, okay, I'm getting ready to hit episode 50. I live in a relatively small metropolitan area. Call every radio station, call every television station, say, hey, I'm getting ready to hit my 50th episode on my podcast. It's about this. Is there a story there for you? And there may not be a story this week, but a month from now, you'll be in the list. Say, hey, remember that guy or gal has that show on whatever topic? We're going to have something that in our news series this week. So we talk. Let's talk to that individual. Or, how did I get on the beat?
Something could break in the news about podcasting. That sparks their interest.
How did I get on the BBC call list? It's because I kept plugging. And I don't live in Hawaii no more, so I don't get called for the BBC Pacific region commentary that happens in Asia. So, so what do I have to do? Do I want to have to be able to give commentary to Europe? Well, I'm kind of in the middle, so no. So it's one of those things where oftentimes where you live, your content, and how you're going to get connected. But again, I go back to the success that we saw with so many of the tech shows. What did we all do? We had our own trip to Mecca, which was CES, and that was where tech bloggers and tech podcasters went. That's where we went for content. That's where we went to meet companies and make connections and build audience by giving them alternate content. And, it could have been if you're, whatever your content is, there's a conference for you.
Yeah.
And are you going? Are you applying for press credentials? Are you spending 2 or 3 days of PTO from your job at an event because that's what I did.
Right.
I had to take PTO. Yeah. I couldn't go. I just couldn't go. My employer was like, you got to put in some vacation days.
Right.
It wasn't free.
Yeah, I did the same thing in the early days. I wrote articles in newspapers and got on radio shows. Real radio shows.
Right.
And got on television and all sorts of stuff back in the early days of doing my show. And it sparks other things to happen that you don't know are going to happen. Like I got a listing in PC Magazine for my show saying that this was one of the best online audio shows.
It's the one of 100 things you have to do.
You don't always know when you're going to break through.
You have no idea. How did we get... And I've told this story many times, and maybe people in this audience don't know it, but how did we get the ability to have a pro bono booth at CES? Now, the first year I got a pro bono booth at CES to do live, I had to pay for my security, my internet, had to pay for everything. I just got the booth. How did I do that? Well, we did a live event on the NBC Universal stage when they were still going to CES. We begged. Jeffrey had a connection. Long story short, we ended up on the NBC Universal stage, and we did a live thing in between multi-million-dollar set in just kind of threw it together. A laptop, single camera, There was $1 million worth of cameras on the stage, but they all had union guys on that I couldn't afford to pay. So I propped up a tripod. We wired everyone up. I mean, it was as hokey as it could get, but we hit 45,000 people on a live stream. And the people at NBC are looking at this like we just had someone on that's a world-renowned, quote-unquote, blogger live, and she didn't move the needle. And here you got 3 dudes. So what did we do? We took that information. We took to CSSC what we did with just an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, have a booth. Then we spent 2 years in purgatory. If those of you that have ever been to the Las Vegas Convention Center, on Central Hall Upper, is it Central? Anyway, yeah, 2-story deal. Was it? That's not set. North. No, not North.
No, that's South Hall.
South Hall Upper. I was all the way in the back left-hand corner. I was in the worst possible. If you walk from that booth to North Hall, that was a 30 to 40. That's a 35-minute huffing around people. And I had people coming from North Hall, huffing 30 minutes to be on a 5-minute interview with us. And we turned 50 interviews over, actually almost 100 interviews over 3 or 4 days. And so what did we do? Then a couple years later, then I ended up in North Hall, right outside the taxi stand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still, then they said, we'll pay for your bandwidth, but you have to pay for your security. You ever price security at CES? That's a $4,000 bill to have someone sit outside your booth from 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. So
make sure things don't walk away.
Right. And then ultimately we end up in pavilions and, everything was in lock and key. And so how did that happen? We paid our dues.
Right.
I turned down the spot Leo Laporte was in for many, many years. It was a great spot because because I knew how much money he was spending there, because I actually got in a pavilion and had lock and key, not as good of a view, but just my overhead costs went way down.
Right.
And we learned to be more efficient in doing that show and bringing less gear and working smarter. That was it. But that was one thing that we did of many. And, Rob, you did the same thing with your show. You did many things. So
yeah, I went to CES early, actually, back when it was Comdex.
Right.
Actually.
Before I went. But, now it's, and again, I like to run home to mama again about these types of things, but you got to do all of the above. You got to do everything.
Yeah. And it's hard now.
It's hard.
It's not easy, and it costs money to do it.
Yeah,
too.
It does.
So, and that's the challenge for many podcasters. It's hard to get out there, and it's much more competitive now. It was not necessarily easier for us back then, but there was less other people doing it. The challenge that we had in the early days was the fact that nobody really wanted to work with podcasters.
Right.
So we had to convince them that we were doing something that was impactful. And, you don't really have to do that now, but there's so many other people doing it now, and it's already recognized. It's just that, a lot of times they're looking for the biggest, of podcasting to work with, right? So that's what makes it hard.
It's part of my long time irritation, and we love podcast movement. We're going to be there, but you and I are going to be paid to be there. We're working. We don't have to take vacation time, but everyone else that is there, most of those folks have a regular job. They're having to take PTO off for 3, maybe 4 days.
Yeah, and it can cost like $2,000.
And
airfare, hotel.
They're spending the money now.
Right.
if you're a new content creator and you're going to invest and go to that show, this is the conversation, honey.
Right.
I want to go to a podcast conference, or your partner or your significant other, whatever it may be. I want to go to a podcast conference, and of my 15 days PTO I've got this year, I'm going to use 4 of them to go to Nashville to learn about this podcasting thing. That's going to give us 11 remaining PTO days for the rest of the year. And you can come along and hang out and do shopping or do whatever you want to do, or if you want to, again, I'm not trying to gentrify this. I apologize if it sounds like it, but your partner go do whatever they want to do in Nashville, but I've always said, if you can have a conference that runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you give the people that are the independent content creators the ability to not burn 2 days of PTO being at a conference and doing stuff. So if we're telling content creators on this show, you need to go to events that are other than Podcast Movement to build your audience. If you need to go there and get educated and network and all that stuff, applause, good for you. But are you able to build your show by going to some event, another event? I know that the other Rob, half of yours, was at the Summer NAMM show in Nashville last week. And, obviously it was easy because it was there in Nashville. He's going to go to Nashville, but, it's good. So in the end, I think when you're an independent content creator not being paid to do this, when you're starting to say, okay, I'm going to go 4 days to Podcast Movement, I'm going to go 3 days to some XYZ conference or XYZ event or symposium and try to make more content, you're talking about, again, the PTO days start adding up now. Because I'm thinking this is the 98% of us that are working to build our shows and don't have any type of backing. It's a hard sell. If you're single, you make the decision to eat it. But most employers, you can't go up to your boss and say, hey, boss, can I have an extra 4 days off this year for my podcast? And they're going to say, where's your loyalty? It can be a challenge.
Yeah. Speaking of NAMM, Rob said it was a little bit of a ghost town.
Oh, that's
bad. There was only like a couple thousand people there, as opposed to normally they usually get 5,000 to 10,000.
A lot of companies are still not traveling.
Yeah. And I thought it was good news that Podcast Movement said that they've almost sold out all of their blocks of rooms.
Oh, awesome.
At the Gaylord in Nashville. So that may mean that at least we will have a decently attended event.
Awesome.
I'm not sure how big that block was.
I don't know either.
Now, there is hotels across the street from the Gaylord. So there is other hotels in the area that may be a little less expensive.
Yeah.
So we may see some podcasters in different hotels. The last time that I was there, I didn't stay at the Gaylord. I stayed at a hotel across the street. It was like $50 or $60 a night, less expensive.
So I think, I don't want to spend all the show on this, obviously, because we spent 2 hours on it before, but anyone that listens to the show for any given amount of time will know that one solution does not fit all for growing a podcast, but it is by far the number one topic of podcasters, how to grow my show. So,
right. Todd, I saw in the Pod News newsletter an article about search discovery and how podcasts in-app search discovery is still, I think, a real problem, right? It's not. I think if you look at it from the perspective of, you're using a podcast app and you're searching for a new show to listen to, right?
Mm-hmm.
How good is the search result and what is that search result based on, right? Which is what this article was about. And it was really highlighting what the problems are. And that a lot of the listening apps just look at show title, maybe a little bit. Some of them look at show description.
Only a few.
Right. And it's very limited, and very few of them actually look at episode level metadata,
right,
which would be episode title, episode related descriptions. And there's really only, even on the title side, it looks like not that many of the apps actually look at the title as a base for search results. There's only like 2 or 3 different podcast listening apps that actually even support that, and even fewer on the description of an episode, right? I think it's only Google Podcasts and Good Pods, which is a fairly small up and coming kind of community-based app around podcasts that's growing their catalog as well. So I think a lot of the listening apps could do a lot better on this side, but it does require some heavy programming on their side, and that may be why they haven't done it. I know. Is there any thoughts that you have, Todd, on that?
It's not heavy programming. It's getting out from underneath the Apple API.
Well, if you're capturing the metadata, you should be able to still do it, right?
If you okay. I have an aggregated, okay.
But you may not be capturing all the metadata.
Oh,
to be able to do it, right?
let me just give you an idea why most of them won't.
Right.
Do you know how much data I add to a database every day by indexing new episodes and capturing?
Oh, it's a lot.
Oh,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. And, I look at that bill number every month knowing it will never go down.
It's only going to go up.
It's only going to go up. And, it's and I might get some tiers to get some little cheaper pricing for that storage, but usually not, because usually what it takes is a much bigger server to run the database that all this data resides under.
Right.
And there's things you can do. You can do some mitigation issues. You can go back and look at shows that are dead, that are, completely, pod faded, and you can cull some of that data. And you can chop wood away from some of that and knock some of the branches down and get, but the bulk of it is still there. And when you're adding millions of new episodes a month to a database and all that metadata, this is why apps, they don't want to store all that data. They want to store a title.
Just enough.
Just enough. Now, maybe they would be smart as a baby step to add episode titles. That would be a decent improvement on all of them, and it's
descriptions is a huge thing.
It's huge.
Yeah. Because show notes can be pretty extensive. So
that's right.
Yeah. But titles are usually short. It shouldn't spike their data needs too much.
It will. No, it does, because if you're just storing,
it's definitely going to grow.
If you're storing,
but not as much as descriptions.
Well, right. If you're storing the title of the show, you've got 4 million entries. If you're storing the episode titles, you have essentially, if all those shows produce one episode a week, you're adding 4 million records, and it's not that big. But, just as a number, you're adding that many more records. And then any other metadata that you add, it's more data. And all of a sudden, they're going, my little podcast app that is not doing, is either freemium or premium. Right. All of a sudden, I've got a server bill that I have to,
Yeah, because it's processing.
Yeah, and I have to storage. Well, it's not only that, servers are running. It's just not like it's sitting out there. You have to, and not only that, you not have to run one server. Maybe you have to run 2, 3, 4, and then those are tied to a big database system that allows you to scale. People have no idea what. So this is why apps do not, because believe me, Angelo is in my hide. Well, it's about every 3 months, and he sends me a little note with a highlighter through database storage size and say, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? I've got 16 years of data in that database.
Yeah.
So do I need to know what happened on this episode in 2006? No, not anymore. So
thank you, Anchor, right?
Oh, that's interesting. Hold up. Don't let me don't lose that. So that's why. Do you want to hear my little note about Anchor?
Sure.
Podcaster told me the other day that when they went to Anchor, it's the first time she's ever pulled over in her car and cried. They moved from a fairly popular platform, not mine, not yours.
Anchor did, or
No,
podcast?
this podcaster moved from a fairly popular platform, not yours or mine, to Anchor.
Mm-hmm.
Everything went sweet, handy, got everything redirected, everything was good, and then all of a sudden they had a second listing in Apple Podcasts for the same show.
Oh, boy. I thought they stopped doing that.
Well, they did, but this was
before?
Before.
Oh, okay.
And it turned into this quagmire, and she said we lost listeners. A lot of listeners.
Yeah, I'll bet. Right.
And
you split your audience.
And no way to recombine them. And so she is moving.
She probably didn't know it. She probably didn't know it for a certain amount of time, right?
Relatively quickly.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, but the damage was already done. So we're talking, and she is now preparing to leave Anchor and come over to Blueberry, and we're having to assure her that she's not going to pull over the side of the road and cry again.
Right.
So it's everyone is scared to move. It's not hard to move from host to host. We horse trade all the time. Podcasts move from Libsyn to Blueberry, Blueberry to Libsyn to Podbean to Libsyn. It's this thing. And someone had a tracker at one time showing how many shows were moving. I think Cridlin had one of those. I should actually play his little jingle here. But he had there we go.
Welcome to.
Oh no, it didn't switch. How come it didn't do that? Oh, never mind. Anyway, we did not. So people are scared of moving. There is a proper way to move. Talk to your oncoming host, whoever you're going to. They all have instructions on how to move from me to from Blueberry to Libsyn, Libsyn to Blueberry, Libsyn to Podbean. We all have cheater notes to show you how to do this without having an extinction event.
Right.
Oh, and for gosh sakes, if you are running your website under a certain .com and you decide you're going to rebrand and just change the domain name on your website, that's probably not a good thing either. But anyway, sorry.
There's all sorts of pitfalls going on. That's for sure.
There's no pitfalls if you follow instructions.
Right. Right. But there can be.
Someone posted the Pod News host change link in our show in our Facebook page. Thank you for that.
Todd,
go ahead, Rob.
you notice that the Evergreen podcast group, I guess it's a company, has purchased a radio station in Cleveland. I guess they purchased a radio station complex. I'm not sure what that means, but it's WDOK-FM. It says the building is 6 times larger than Evergreen's current offices, and the company will employ 25 people by the end of the year. And the building is a radio lane, which I'm not sure what that is. But that name's unlikely to change for now, as WDOK-FM, better known as Cleveland's Star 101, has kind of moved into the building, I guess. And so I guess they're getting in the radio side of things.
So are they?
Podcasting company has bought a radio, not the other way around, radio buying a podcast company.
So does that mean they're going to be in the gameplay here?
I'm not sure what it means. It just, I guess the analogy that it brought to mind was Amazon saying for many, many years that they were going to put brick and mortar out of business. And look what Amazon did. They bought Whole Foods.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a little bit of a, paint the picture in one direction.
How do I sign up to get my podcast on that platform where I can be on the radio?
I don't know. Do you really want to be on the radio, Todd?
Sure. Don't care where they listen, long as they listen.
All right. Well,
I don't want to follow no radio format, though. So,
Well, that's a very interesting question, actually.
Yeah.
Why would you not want to follow a radio format if you're on a radio station?
No, thank you. Doesn't work.
It doesn't work because you're a podcast, or it doesn't work for radio?
It doesn't work for this show.
So it doesn't work for your podcast.
Yeah. Well, and if they're going to be a podcast company on a radio station, they can do they're going to have to make money one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to bring up one thing I read here from Mr. Tom Webster.
Tom Webster had a great point. Huh? Wait, what? That phrase makes me nervous.
Yes, indeed. And he, of course, if you are subscribed to Tom's newsletter, you can buy him a cup of coffee. He's got a donation link. He really puts time into these articles.
I saw that. Yeah.
So
he's quite a writer.
Yep.
He's
Tom, you ever want to go ahead?
I think you should write a book, or write a movie script or something.
Tom,
he's got that kind of ability.
If you ever want to write for Blueberry, we pay our writers, and love to have you over there as a freelancer.
Right.
So his newsletter is talking about basically is podcasting a slowing market. And there was only one thing in here, and I just had to do this because I sent him a tweet on Twitter about it, that he got wrong. Basically talking about measuring Spotify. And just so everyone knows, we do measure Spotify plays for non-exclusive Spotify shows. Every podcast host that I know of is on pass-through, and we're able to get actual Spotify numbers. We don't get YouTube numbers.
Not streaming.
Well, I'm not going to. It's streaming, downloading, playing. Call it whatever you want.
I know. I agree with
that.
I'm just telling you that oftentimes that word streaming comes up in the most inappropriate places.
So we do have insight into Spotify. Now, YouTube, no. But as far as I know, everyone else is on pass-through. So I did a little poked him a little bit on. So, but this was a great article.
But Joe Rogan is not on pass-through.
No, he is not. And there is no measuring Joe Rogan except for on Spotify's platform. So,
but Todd, is that because I wonder, is Joe Rogan's podcast streaming to listeners, or is it still a download?
Oh, I bet it's streaming.
It's an interesting question. Or is all of the media delivery on? I would say
to the listener, they don't care.
I know they don't care, but I would say all of the content on Spotify more than likely is delivered via HLS.
Probably.
Right?
But
probably.
I will go back and say again, please, if you have a successful YouTube channel where you're getting significant plays on YouTube as a podcaster, please, if you're getting at least 20% of your plays on YouTube, I want to hear from you. I want to look at your show, because there's this continued narrative that people are, don't get me wrong, YouTube's a great search engine, great place to discover, but I until someone can show me some tangible examples of successful original podcasters putting their show on YouTube, let me see that. I'm talking about someone that's a podcaster with an RSS feed. That's
Todd, I do know. I've worked with a few of them, but what I see generally is that they're primarily YouTube creators.
Right, that's different.
Well, it's not, because they have a podcast, and they also publish their audio podcasts into their YouTube channel.
Okay, but they have video.
What I see is the short form video in YouTube. It depends on what it is, right? It's all content driven. But from what I see with this one creator, is that their videos are very popular because they're short. But the topics align with the longer form audio that they post up there as well.
That's different, Rob. That's a YouTuber who has a podcast, and it's great. I would expect that to be semi-successful.
Plus this creator also does live radio too.
So that's fine. That's
I know.
I'm talking about. Let's just look at.
No, but what I'm trying to
I
say,
know.
Todd, is that you can come from YouTube and create an audio program
Right.
and then find success on YouTube with your audio program if you align it with the video content.
Right.
And then I believe that you can go from being an audio podcaster to a video creator on YouTube, but you have to create a little bit different type of content over there. I think it needs to be a little shorter in length. It needs to be more topic focused.
Yep.
Very keyword driven, link bait almost, with the graphics and the images. And I think you can drive viewers to your channel off of the video that then will roll into your audio. So I think it depends on your strategy over there. If you just post like we do 90-minute audio episodes over there, I don't think you're going to find the success.
No. So for those of you that don't know, go, and I give Tom credit here, go tomwebster.media, tomwebster.media, not .com, tomwebster.media, and sign up for his newsletter so you can get this. It's called I Hear Things. And
and Tom does a terrific job of kind of raising important topics in the space that need to be talked about. We don't always agree, but that's okay.
And I'm here. He's having lots of fodder. He's putting together for his keynote at Podcast Movement. So that will be one we don't want to miss. I also heard Rob Walsh has gotten collecting a lot of fodder for his presentation at Podcast Movement as well. I saw one of the things he collected the other day, and I kind of giggled. I'm like, Rob, you actually made a comment to me. I won't repeat on the air, but I don't have to wear a bulletproof vest. Rob Walsh does. I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
We're safe.
Right. Todd is safe for once.
And I'm teasing here, but Rob breaks down some hard truth sometimes, and truth is
pull back punches.
not a bit, from the top rope, kind of like a WWW wrestler, comes off the top rope with a body slam,
I think he's more on the MMA side.
Yeah, I think so. And it's kind of funny is I was in a meeting with him recently, and I was like,
couldn't be the IAB by chance.
I'm not saying where I was a meeting at, but my mouth was about that wide open. And I actually sent him a text later. I said one word, damn.
Yeah. Right.
Holy cow. What is his title? Podcaster Relations? It's definitely not corporate relations. Oh man, it's funny.
Yeah. He should be VP of Protagonist, right? Poking the bear, man.
Oh man.
Did you hear that the MV7 podcasting kit is now coming with a microphone mini tripod?
Yeah, just a little bitty mini tripod.
It's a mini tripod.
It's cute.
Yes, it's cute. Yes.
It's cute.
Also the Fireside Chat folks are going to be at Podcast Movement. Big time.
Yeah. So Rob, I heard you made some commentary about RSS feeds in these platforms. Let us delve into that a little bit.
Well, I've seen some commentary on this about one of the things that can maybe possibly hold back the audience growth and expansion of content created on these social audio platforms, and that's the creation of RSS, right? A lot of this, I've been on Clubhouse for a long time. A lot of content is created over there that kind of, when the session's over, it disappears into the ether, and that may be good for some of the sessions over there, but maybe, I think as you look at Fireside Chat, it's a good example. They're trying to become more of what is called a podcasting creation platform that's using social audio. So it was a comment that I've seen come around, from other people as well, not just from me. I just happened to put it out as an idea off of my channel on Twitter, but it did touch a nerve no question.
I would recommend anyone that is considering using Fireside that you read their terms of service very, very, very carefully.
Mm-hmm. I think you should always do that, no matter what platform.
There is some, well, there is a paragraph in their terms of service that should give many podcasters pause.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to spoil the person who's going to write about it, but I saw the paragraph being called out, and I think there's a blog post coming about it. But holy smokes, yeah.
Well, they're striving to be what they're calling the next evolution of storytelling. And I'm not quite sure how that meshes with my experience on Fireside. It says it's where the world's greatest creators go to bring the audience into their story through an interactive virtual show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still an invite-only platform. I got pulled into it here in the last couple weeks, but
so the question then is, how do you if you want to be everywhere like this show, where we're on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, we have a blog, we have a podcast RSS feed that does audio and video that goes to every destination on the planet. And if you wanted to participate on that platform, it may not be possible doing a show like this that's multicasting. And
right.
So it's, it just appears to me like they want exclusivity to a certain extent of the content that's created over there. So we'll see.
Well, Todd, I think it's safe to say that any platform that wants to build, they want to have the best content they can get, right? Because they think that that's going to drive the most users. I think what has been the reality of the podcasting space is that platforms that take that approach typically don't get as many listeners. That's been the inverse of the big corporate philosophy that's been around for many, many years. That goes back to the early days of media, is that exclusivity and having a platform that has a limited selection of content has grabbed more audience in the past. Look at radio, look at television, look at all this stuff. But what's happened with the internet is that the platforms that have the most content and the most users are the ones that get used the most. So, yeah, that's the issue.
Martin asks, who's behind Fireside? Mark Cuban. The Mark Cuban is behind Fireside.
Yeah, from Shark Tank, and he owns the Dallas Mavericks, and he sold his broadcast.com to Yahoo back in the early days of online media for he sold it for $12 billion, I think.
He was the .com winner chicken dinner at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what funded his current fortune that he has right now, that he's been able to do all the things that he's been doing. So, because nobody knew about Mark Cuban before that deal.
No.
Right.
Well, and let's just be honest, it's like, hit a home run. So, congratulations to him. I don't begrudge anyone that has a win like that. So,
well, he was early to the game. He was streaming online early. I believe it was sports teams back in those days.
I think
remember. He was trying to build that stuff on the Real Networks platform, I believe is what he was working with back then. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be a podcast movement. He and his colleague are going to be doing, I guess, a keynote at Podcast Movement.
So just read the terms of service over there. Look at the prohibited guest and pre-recorded content clause within their terms of service. Read that very, 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 very carefully. And
God, I haven't seen it. What does it say? Generally.
Pre-recorded content / prohibited guests. Broadcasting pre-recorded content as the sole content of your show is prohibited on Fireside. In addition, only persons who have an account on Fireside may be invited to participate as a guest on any given Fireside show. Streaming guests from third-party tools such as Zoom through a single user stream is prohibited.
So you have to use their tools to be able to get into a show.
So you can't be running a Fireside stream and having me be on like we are here. I have to have a user account on Fireside and participate through their platform, not brought in from some other with another technological means. So in other words,
right.
So what they're trying to do is probably some copyright protection, number one, because pre-recorded content, that could mean, something's been pre-recorded and then they just dump it in.
It could be broadcast, or
right.
It could be.
So that's why they require all those that are going to be speaking to have a Fireside account to participate as a guest. So to me, that's just a deal killer for using that platform and trying to do what we do here and multicast and be everywhere.
Well, I don't think that you would want to multicast to that platform anyway. I'm not sure that it's conducive to that.
Well, when we were on Clubhouse for a while there,
That's
you
true.
patched me in, and
Mm-hmm.
Now I came in I was sitting there and silenced myself, so I guess there's always a way around things, but.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought that clause was relatively curious.
Well, I wonder if you can use like a roadcaster type of thing.
Nope, can't bring anybody in. Third party tools. They have to go in via Fireside's app, and they have to have a user account. So
did it say anything about recording on external tools?
Nope.
Okay, that's good.
Well, maybe they haven't got to that point of the terms of service yet, but.
Well, like I can record Clubhouse sessions.
Right. If you announce it.
Yeah, right. I mean, you have to let people know that you're recording, because Clubhouse doesn't record, and this platform is going to record because it is a on-demand playback platform.
Mm-hmm.
So you do the show live.
Mm-hmm.
You bring your guests in. Somehow, I don't know how this storytelling piece fits into all that, but that's the infrastructure that I've seen. And it gets recorded, the session gets recorded, and it shows up as a episode list from you. And they also, I believe, list the shows that you've been a part of. So like, let's say I was a guest on another person's show that was recorded on the platform. It shows up on my profile as me being a guest on that other show.
Do you have an RSS feed you can submit to Apple Podcasts from that platform?
I don't have anything that I can say too much about that.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
Well, good. This is good news. If they're not going to provide an RSS feed, that's great news. That is absolutely fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. Another platform that I don't have to contend with. Beautiful.
Right. But they have stated publicly that they're going to be supporting podcasting.
Oh, okay.
In what they're doing.
In what they're doing. Okay.
So take that for what it means.
Yeah. That whoever's definition of podcast, whatever, lots of definition of podcasts going on right now. Lots. Oh,
Well, I think that there's only one that
but
we care about.
Yeah, that we care about, but the general public may not care about otherwise. Let us. I do want to make an announcement. I do want to thank Linktree for coming in and being a key sponsor for the Podcast Awards.
Yeah, that's fantastic news,
This is
Todd.
the first big commercial sponsor in a very, very long time. So this is pretty big. So they're check cleared, and you can go over to Linktree, and how that works is linktr.ee/podcast awards, and you can see our Linktree. So.
I have a link tree off of my Twitter
Oh, you do?
profile, right?
So I was going to see if something I bought is live yet. Let me look. See if it's still live. It's not live yet. I have a surprise coming. I got inspired, so time will tell.
So, Todd, I've got another topic that I would like to talk about.
Go ahead.
And get your views on. But do you think in the next couple of years we're going to see a significant expansion of advertising outside of the United States into podcasts?
About time.
I know that the Acast folks have been pushing the envelope on this for a while, and I know there's a few other companies that are doing it as well. I think it's been slow to develop outside of the U.S.
Well, here for English speaking podcast, you're going to get Canada, United States, UK, and a few other English speaking. Australia.
Right.
But
there's a lot of countries outside of the U.S. Outside of those that you just listed that consume a lot of English speaking content.
I understand that. But for major deals, those are the handful that are going to get deals. And then if you have a Spanish spoken podcast, you're going to do well on Spanish spoken country specific advertising. That is to be said. And if you speak French, or if you speak Portuguese or German or whatever it may be, yeah, I think there's going to be major expansion. But the problem though is it takes a special type of advertiser. Now, who can pull that off? Well, maybe
the advertisers are going to have to come from each of those countries,
or the divisions of those big companies within those countries. So it'll be Ford in the UK or Ford in Japan or wherever it may be, because the models.
This is where dynamic ad insertion comes into play.
So there lies the problem.
Right.
I haven't looked at this show lately.
It's not an infringement of listeners' privacy too much.
No.
Target based on geographic location. So I think that you can certainly run campaigns for companies in Spain if your English speaking content gets listened to a lot in Spain.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. So I think that's kind of the next thing that started. I saw that the Crooked Media is getting, this is a podcast platform, or not platform, but a podcast network. I guess just did a deal with Acast to get more international ads into shows. And I know that Dax up in Canada has been doing that for English speaking content that's going into Canada, where you would dynamically insert Canadian advertisers into podcasts coming out of the U.S. that are heard in Canada. So you would strip out the U.S. centric advertisers, and you would substitute the Canadian advertisers in the same show that happens to be listened to in Canada.
So if I look at this show and I look at the full list, this is kind of interesting. This is something you probably didn't know. Here is the rundown by country who listens to this show. United States, France, Canada, UK, Australia, Mexico, Japan, Honduras, Netherlands, Slovenia, Ireland, Spain, Denmark, Portugal, Germany, Vietnam, Singapore, India, Saudi Arabia, Greece, New Zealand, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Malaysia, Korea, Philippines, Bahamas, Israel, Belgium, Finland, South Africa, Bulgaria, Taiwan, Sweden, Norway, Estonia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Luxembourg, and Tanzania, and the last Italy. And basically, Sweden, Norway, Estonia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Luxembourg, Tanzania, and Italy had one download each.
Ever? Is
No,
that an
in the month
list?
of June.
Oh, just the month of June.
In
Okay.
Taiwan, Bulgaria, and South Africa, we had 2 downloads each. 3,
All right, bring it on.
Finland and Belgium. Israel, Bahamas, Philippines, Korea, 4 downloads each. Malaysia, Brazil, 5. Now we're getting into some real numbers. New Zealand, Greece, Saudi Arabia, 7 downloads. India, Singapore, Vietnam, 9. Germany, Portugal, Denmark, and Spain made it all the way to 14. So we're getting pretty close to the top 10. Where do you think we have more than 100 listeners outside of the United States, France, Canada, and UK? Nowhere else.
Nowhere else, yeah.
That's for 8 episodes, or how many we did in June.
Right.
Our numbers in the United States are great. France is kind of shocking to me, actually. Who's listening in France? Please check in. We want to hear from you.
Well, and for what I hear, France actually has their own podcast metric standards.
Well, our show's being measured on the U.S. standards. So we thank you and those up north, Canada and the UK and Australia. But it's pretty amazing here where this show is reached. Now, let's talk about your advertising thing. We're in 41 countries in June. If this show was taking advertising globally, well, yeah, we can run ads in Spain. No problem. 14 downloads was what we can deliver for the month.
Right.
You kind of following my point here?
Do you think that we're a good example to provide on this?
Yes,
this
we
show?
are, because most shows don't have 41 countries tuning into their shows.
Okay.
We have.
if you're looking at a bigger show, let's say getting 1 million downloads.
Well, that's a whole different deal.
I know it is. That's why I'm saying it.
and so there's not very many of those.
Yeah, that's true.
So
we need more of those.
We do. And I've looked at some very, very big shows but it'd be shocking how it still kind of runs this way. What's in common here? Now,
it's probably proportional, right?
I would have never expect France to be number 2 in June for us. That must be a fluke. Let me look at May.
Well, they've got a pretty aggressive expansion of podcasting there in France, from what I'm hearing.
May was the same. We had significant numbers in May so there's something afoot there. So far in July, how's it looking? So all right. So far in July, the French have disappeared. Well, they're here, but they are not in the top 5 anymore.
It's summer, Todd. They're on vacation.
Well, they actually are. So I think that we speak English and we're a big English draw show, so that makes sense. But
yeah,
this show, it just makes absolutely no sense. And I think some shows will make absolutely no sense to do an ad-inserted ad buy for Portugal.
Well, Portugal's a tiny country too, so keep that in mind.
Oh, wait a minute. That's true. So let's think about, let's say, Brazil then.
Right.
Okay.
Argentina,
they speak Portuguese in Brazil.
Right.
And it would make no sense to run an ad for this show where we're not getting hardly any. That makes us no money. That doesn't even cover expensive ad insertion. So where foreign advertising is going to build is in if you have a show in Brazil or Spain or Mexico
or the UK
or India or
Canada. Right.
Yeah. And those in Canada, if you really follow the rules, some of you, depending on which province you're in, you have to do legally, you may have to run that advertisement in both English and French. So
that's true. And the Latinx report that Edison just released came out with significant numbers around shows that are what they call bilingual productions. I don't know if you saw that, Todd.
Right.
But those are shows that deliver the content in kind of hybrid English, Spanish. I don't know what's the right word to say, but they use Spanish as well as English spoken content in the podcast.
Mm-hmm. So I was going to share with you guys that are listening to the show, tell you where the majority of you are listening from. Not surprisingly, Michigan, California, Texas, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Florida, Ohio, Georgia, and New York make up the top 10. Lowest number of listeners. Oh, that's interesting.
So podcasts have been delivering advertisers through dynamic ad insertion to different parts of the country of the U.S. for many years. I did it back when I was working at Podcast One. So like a chain like AutoZone has stores in the southeast of the United States. All those episodes that were delivered to the states in the southeast would get delivered the AutoZone ads because that's where they have their chain stores. So you can target via geographic in country as well as outside of the country of the U.S. Right.
When I look at the map for this show, it's kind of interesting how it runs. We have obviously almost no listeners in, the northern midsection of the United States, but, still high population areas, Los Angeles, Seattle, Portland, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, almost all the way through Florida, Atlanta, Knoxville, Washington, D.C., Philly, New York, even good listenership up in Boston. Thank you, Tom. Then a whole segment right here in Michigan, which part of that's probably me, Grand Rapids, Detroit area, Phoenix, and Salt Lake. We have good listenership. Our Albuquerque, our Nevada is kind of thin. Actually, Nevada listeners are kind of thin. We do have people, sole listener out in Alaska. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. And out in Hawaii, man, none of my peeps over there love us anymore. We have no listeners in Hawaii.
Well, you turned your back on them, Todd.
That's exactly it. But it's when you go to think about targeting, and it really, every podcast audience is different. So even within the United States, we'd probably do okay if we ran in Dallas, Seattle, Portland, New York, Boston, Atlanta, and again, almost all the way through Florida. We'd probably do the best with advertising deals focused on those geographic areas.
Well, Todd, we should do a new media show tour at some point.
Sure. So
do some live shows.
So the best place we should go, the number one place will be Lansing. Number 2 will be New York, New York. Number 3 will be Philly. Number 4 will be Los Angeles. 5 will be Dallas. 6 will be Boston. 7th will be Cleveland. 8th will be in Atlanta. 9th will be in Washington, D.C. and 10 in Phoenix. So that's the lineup. That's where we're going. Lansing, Michigan, New York, New York, Philly, L.A., Dallas, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, Washington, D.C. and Phoenix. We might even go to Chicago too.
Yeah.
That's
Sounds
where
good to me.
it's where a majority, the high majority of this audience tunes in from. Isn't that kind of interesting?
Mm-hmm.
I would not recommend that we go to Bakersfield, California. not Bend, Oregon, Burlington, Vermont, Kansas City, Missouri, Tri-City, Tennessee, Springfield, Massachusetts, Grand Junction, Colorado, Tallahassee, Florida, Mobile, Alabama, Fairbanks, Alaska, Fort Myers, or Charleston, South Carolina. We may not make our money back in those markets
Probably not.
because all of those had one download so far this month in July.
So what's our audience in Nashville?
Nashville. I got to search.
I think it's pretty small.
Nashville, Tennessee is around 800
Oh, okay. In June.
so far in July.
Oh, in July. Oh, okay. Well, if we could get 800 people to show up,
Yeah, that would be great.
that would work. Of course, that's probably total downloads.
Yeah, that's
So-
across all episodes for the month of July. So split that amongst how many episodes we done? So 3, 4.
4.
So it's maybe 200.
200 people could
200.
potentially show
But
up.
200 and, $100 a head. That, I think that'd be worth the trip.
$100.
Sure.
Yeah, might as well.
Martin was asking about India. Now, Martin, if we're going to do this show in India, 24 people would show up from the whole country of India for this podcast.
Wow. So are we in Ghana and Josava?
I think we are probably. And
Okay.
if I was looking at clients, let me go over here and look, see a full client list. And I do.
Todd, I wanted to talk about one last
Go ahead.
topic
Go ahead.
with us on the show today. I'm sure everybody saw that Pocket Casts
Oh, yes.
got acquired by Automatic,
Mm-hmm.
which is the owner of WordPress.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where
There
else
was
have
some-
where else have they made an investment, Rob?
Where is the other place that they made an investment? I'm not sure, Todd. Why don't you tell us?
Castos.
Castos?
And who does Castos? What
Or
plugin?
Castro? Castro or
Castos, I think is the name of it.
Okay.
Which plugin does Castos run?
Yours.
Not ours.
Oh.
They have their own plugin.
Oh.
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 Do you not
Okay.
think the acquisition of Pocket Cast didn't get my attention?
Yeah, I'm sure it did. They also own Tumblr, which really is kind of
Yeah.
fallen from grace out there. But
Here's my prediction. They're going to, those that are on they're not going to do anything to impact, I don't think, their WordPress.org installed base. I don't think they're going to hurt their plugin developers there. I could be wrong. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a plugin go on the WordPress.com offering. Some
Mhm.
integration there based upon investment dollars so far. So we'll see. Yeah.
I'm just I'm not quite sure. This has me thinking.
Yeah, it should.
In January of 2021, after NPR, National Public Radio used to own Pocket Cast, just to let everybody refresh everyone's memory on this. And I guess they lost $812,000 in just prior to this deal. So I do know that they've lost some key executive staff. So there was definitely something brewing here. Yeah, I'm a little bit perplexed on what they have in mind for this and why they think this is a good time to pick it up.
Well, I get the distinct opinion based upon the statements made by the team down in Australia on Pocket Cast that 2020 was kind of rough.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
from their
That's-
app standpoint. And it's known that NPR lost $800,000 on Pocket Cast.
Yeah, that's the number I just gave us.
Oh yeah. So
$812,000 loss.
So probably a couple $100,000 in salary. And then I don't know how many people with Pocket Cast employees.
Well, they lost their CEO, remember, about a year ago.
So
There was something going
this
on.
is going to be, WordPress, whew, makes me go,
It says, WordPress says we will explore building deep integrations with WordPress.com.
WordPress.com.
And Pocket Cast.
Yeah. Right.
Which might mean they have aspirations as a podcast hosting company.
Potentially. But they need a plug-in because out of the box, WordPress is not podcast ready. Huh.
Yeah. I hate to speculate too much on this at this point. Yeah.
And I hate to give anybody any ideas, but they're they're not stupid over there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it goes into WordPress.com, that doesn't hurt me too much.
I can see where you might be a little concerned, Todd.
Hell yeah.
They understand RSS after all.
Oh, yes, they do. They understand it very well.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that is potential is that.
Is there another acquisition in the works?
So here's the thing. There is a, for a better word, there's a reason that plugin is called Simple. Starts with the word simple. It's because it doesn't have it has it's a very narrow focus of types of podcasts that it supports. And you don't see that plugin running 500-600 shows on a network and that kind of stuff. So, or have, lots of functionality, deep functionality. But again, it is what it is. So,
yeah.
So it's not, definitely something for me to, consider.
Ponder.
Sure. So we just
Probably
have
more than ponder.
Well,
Todd.
we just have to keep doing what we do and do it well.
Yeah. Right.
That's all.
That's all you've ever been able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because 800-pound gorillas have arrived. And if you can't beat them, join them.
I don't know how big Automatic is as a company.
Oh, I think they're pretty big. Let's see if we can find any information.
I know they've been around a long time.
Yeah. And they rely on the open source community.
I mean, it seems like these guys came out of nowhere, but in some ways, maybe we shouldn't be surprised.
In the last run, the company was valued at $3 billion. The company has 1,273 employees as of September 2020.
And the founder
Is Matt.
Matt Mulwig.
Yep.
And he is a podcaster himself.
I
don't know if you knew that.
I didn't.
He's been around a long time.
Where's
his
his
company is podcasting. Let's see.
And they're in San Francisco.
Let's see if I can find his podcast. Yeah, he does a podcast himself called Distributed with Matt Mulwig.
Where's it hosted at?
The Knowledge Project. Let's see if I'll go to his RSS feed. See if I can tell on there. I'm sure he's hosting it on his own platform, I would imagine. So, doesn't doesn't really show. Okay, let's see if I can find an episode link.
Doing the old sleuthing.
It's hosted off of distributed.blog.
Hmm.
Wonder what that is.
That's his, well, go to distributed.blog.
Yep. It goes back to his
Website?
his podcast websites. So he's hosting his podcast
Yep.
on his own website.
Yep.
Which is probably on WordPress. I'll bet.
Which is interesting here because let me look at this.
Proudly powered by WordPress.
Yeah, I know that, of course.
Right.
But I'm doing a little sleuthing here. In his RSS feed, I do not see, he's definitely not using PowerPress.
No, that has, but he's using WordPress's category podcast.
Yeah, it's using category
/feed,
podcasting. Yeah,
which is definitely
which
generated by
raises
WordPress.
my eyebrow because that is kind of formulated around how we kind of make podcast feeds too. So that's what made me kind of go look at this real quick. But anyway, we'll see. We will see.
I don't think there's any really significant clues there about anything. But
I think there is. I think.
You do.
That's just too many coincidences here. not to be one of those things.
That'd be one of those things.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I was actually gonna bring it up earlier. So,
and his image link is coming off of il.wp.com, which is a WordPress.com domain.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I got everyone thinking now, don't we?
Yeah, we do, and we didn't even say it.
Oh, yep.
So, all right. Well, I guess we did in a way.
Yeah, we did. So, it is what it is. And you just have to, like any company, we have to all keep innovating and hope that you build enough loyalty within the stack to, and provide enough features and services that people are, appreciative of and continue to move forward with. One thing I will say is, from Blueberry's standpoint, we've spent really the last year and a half, 2 years I guess the better word is restacking the stack. And some of that is going to start to be shown in fruition here in due order, because it's now all in beta test, and we're going to cut it loose to a few podcasts. Not all of it, parts of it. So it's part of a huge effort. So, you guys go from Libsyn 4 to Libsyn 5. I'm going from Blueberry 1 to Blueberry 82 in one full swoop.
Wow.
It is really not 82, but that's kind of the monumental leap we're going to make with the platform.
It's a big leap. Yeah,
it's a big leap. So
did you see this other article on The Verge from, was it Ashley Carmen? She wrote an article here recently. I guess it was on July 16th. So it's been a few days now, called The Next Big Social Network Trend. Guess what it is, Todd?
Podcasting.
What's the next big? Nope.
What is it?
Short form audio.
Okay. Podcasting.
What does that mean to you? It says, and the subhead of the article is "Forget long Clubhouse convos. These founders see voice notes as the future."
Voice notes.
Voice notes.
So
Short form voice notes, because there's multiple startups right now, Todd. One's called Beams, one's called Quest, and another one's called Pluto with a D. And excuse me, and Facebook announced a platform called Soundbites.
okay.
So I'm not quite sure what that means.
So is a soundbite 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 4 minutes?
I don't see an assigned time frame or duration issue. They're kind of excluding Clubhouse, because Clubhouse can be really are a minimum of an hour, really, when it comes right down to it. And I guess there's another platform called Racket.
Well, I want to send a word of congratulations out to short form queen Ming Young Fogarty, because hasn't she hit a milestone here?
Yeah.
15 years, right?
Yeah. The term that's being used also, and this is a new term, and I did refer to it in my Twitter post about social audio, is the term micro podcasting.
Podcast. We don't care how it gets there, how it does, as long as it's feeding via an RSS feed. Keep going back to that.
This article states that notably, none of these apps offer RSS feeds to distribute content to other apps. Basically, setting up the problem. It says here, RSS is a problem, even because it doesn't allow for social networks to grow in one app.
Well,
so I think the problem with RSS is when you look at podcasting, it's like a decentralized technology that wasn't made to be a social network. So, right.
Well, time will tell. Lots of people that have predictions. We'll see what happens over time. Rob, we're at the end.
We are.
We're over.
Yep.
We're not keeping them to 2 hours.
Not today.
No, not at all. And I'm just about out of energy. I slept short last night.
Oh.
I don't. If anybody hear that ever before, you sleep short.
Well, I got a good night's sleep last night.
Well, good. I'm glad you did.
So I can charge forward if we want to go to 2 hours.
No, we're done. So I'm Todd at Blueberry.com, at Geek News on Twitter. We'll be back here on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern live. Of course, you can catch the podcast being released probably, 18 to 24 hours later. Depends on how fast I get it out. Got the last one out quick. But
I have a lot of energy right now. Maybe we should go back to doing Saturdays now.
Rob, you're more than welcome to find another co-host for Saturday. We can bring a third party in, no problem.
I'm just joking with you.
That's a great idea for you to pursue. Or you can go solo. You can do it solo here.
I could do a solo media show?
You can make it the Libsyn show, and then I will come right in over the top. Bam. No, just kidding.
So any updates about Podcast Movement before we leave? I mean, it's our session's coming together. So look for us on August 6th at 2:15. We're going to be on the main stage doing it live.
Doing it live for an hour and 15 minutes. Doing it live.
So are you going to bring your larger version of the New Media Show logo that you can put up on stage again, Todd?
You bring the 3x3? I'm not putting that in a suitcase. Sorry. They can put it on the screen behind us.
So how did you get it to the last?
Because the person that made it for me brought it. He gave it to me at the show. Yeah,
I see what you did.
Yeah, it's hanging on. I got two of them here. One's on the floor and one's hanging on the wall out here.
Well, you can always ship it to Nashville, right?
Rob, I will think about it. Because we'll get done and then the mad rush to FedEx happens as soon as we get done.
That's true. Well, you're already going to be FedExing stuff anyway, right?
Yeah, no, our stuff gets left right on the floor, right by the booth. They pick it up. We don't do that silliness no more. They ship it. The convention, we pay the extortion fee to have the exhibition people ship it.
So, Todd, did you hear that all the booths at Podcast Movement are going to be corner
I heard
booths
that
now?
today.
Did you hear that? Wow.
So much for having booth priority pick. How is that going to work?
They're all going to be distanced from each other too, so it's going to be very anti-competitive kind of thing, right? There's not going to be as many, Nerf fights going on that normally goes on.
Well, I guess I can bring a few more pull-up banners then.
Yeah, because you're going to be able to expand your booth, right? Because there's going to be more room around.
I've already got
now.
a 10 by 20, so I don't know if I need much more room.
We certainly don't need more and more room because we have a 10 by 20
Yeah.
and another 10 by 10. So, yeah.
Are they all co-located, or are they in different locations?
The AdvertiseCast folks have their own booth out in the hallway.
Okay.
And our 8 by 10 by 20, whatever it is in the exhibition area.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure where we are in conjunction to where you are, but I haven't seen the map lately.
I think I saw where you were originally. I don't know. Hey, Dan, we want to see the new floor plan. It'd been nice to have been shown that.
Did you also see where there's going to be like little buttons that we wear with colors on it that designate our social ability?
Mine will be green.
Mine will be too.
I'm going to be green. Come on up and give me a hug.
Right. Thought that was interesting.
Or a handshake, or your elbow, or high five, or whatever you want to do.
Or heel.
But the hotel is not doing masks, but they're recommending masks at the event, which is kind of.
And I did see in the comments in the email, I was laughing at this a little bit, that they're okay with speakers up on stage wearing masks while they're doing their presentations.
Well, they have to march the party line, Rob.
I know they do, but I thought it was a little humorous.
So.
Yeah. And all the microphones will be sanitized between
good.
sessions.
That's a good idea. It should be done all the time, regardless. It should be done all the time. And most of the times we're on labs anyway, so.
So don't be surprised if you go to Podcast Movement and you hear, you see these little idiosyncrasies where you see someone walk into a room and they have a red button on their chest and everybody stays away from them like they're the plague.
I don't think that's going to happen. Come on.
I hope not.
I hope not too.
It's kind of being set up to be like that, though.
I hope not. Make it green.
Yeah. Right.
Make it rain.
Well, that's something that we will not be experiencing unless they're creating their own weather inside of this atrium.
No,
right.
Rain is green.
Okay, that kind of rain. Right. I like that kind of rain.
I do too.
Well,
we've lost the audience. They're gone. How do they reach you?
I can be found on Twitter at Rob Greenlee, and you can send me an email if you want, robg@lipson.com. Happy to hear from you and talk to you and see what you're up to.
You're bound and determined to try to take us to 2 hours again. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time here on the New Media Show. Everyone take care. Be safe out there.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.